Live from the studios overlooking the beautiful city of Rochester, New York, hosting Steeler Nation Live, your hosts, Big Tiz and Big O.
Hey guys, welcome to Steeler Nation Live. Big Tiz.
And I'm Big O.
This is our doubleheader edition here on Steeler Nation Live. We're going to talk a little bit about the Cleveland Browns game that just happened where the Steelers went down. The Cleveland lost 31-10, and we're going to touch base on the Houston Texans game, which happened Monday night. Big O, tell them a little bit about what we're going to do in this show with that.
Well, what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to talk about last week's game against Cleveland and compare it to this Monday night's game against the Texans. But before we do that, Joe Laurie in the studio is going to tell more about that.
Thanks for having me on for another great week of Steelers football. The Steelers putting on a great show for us on Monday night against Houston with that 30-23 victory. You'll like to see the Steelers putting the Browns game in their rearview mirror. The offense made big plays, particularly to Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, as the offense finally scores some points and finishes drives. You like to see the offense not turn the ball over a lot, just as they did this past week, and you love to see the defense getting the turnovers. You had that special teams play with that fumble. You had that awesome Brett Kiesel interception. So the defense stepped it up in the second half, and the offense doing what they did all night and what they've been doing all season. Ben Roethlisberger throwing for over 260 yards this past week. 2 scores, no interceptions. You like to see him take control of that offense like he has been all year. The running game wasn't there this past week. Le'Veon Bell only rushed for about 50 yards, and LeGarrette Blount had 7 rushes for 9 yards. So the rushing attack was not there. So you like to see guys like Antonio Brown, Lance Moore, and Antonio Brown's been doing it all year. Marcus Wheaton, guys make plays like that and score some points just when your running game isn't doing it. The run defense struggled a little bit. Also, a big concern for the defense was the big plays that they were giving up. DeAndre Hopkins was gashing that defense all night. Andre Johnson looked like the Andre Johnson of old. And Arian Foster had over 100 yards rushing. So again, we're talking about this rush defense. They need to step up. We've been saying that all year, but it's about time as we head in to this Indianapolis Colts game where you got Ahmad Bradshaw and Trent Richardson to worry about, along with the big play, T.Y. Hilton as a wide receiver, and Andrew Luck, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So the defense, again, is a talking point again this week, and then just showing consistency. You don't want that defense to always be the talk of the town. You want them to be consistent, step up week after week, and if you're going to make the playoffs, this is the team to beat. You got to have, just a showing like they did last week. You got to put wins together, string wins together, and hopefully the Steelers can do it this week against the Colts as they look to go 5-3. Thanks, guys. Back to you.
Thank you, Joe, from the studio. And Joe hit on a bunch of topics, Big Tiz and folks at home. Obviously, there's 2 differences. You have a win, you have a loss. You have a loss, you have a win. There's differences. But starting off with the loss to Cleveland, going into Cleveland, I don't think we necessarily had a chip on our shoulder, but when the past rivalry between the Steelers and Cleveland, you always got to go into wherever, either it's Heinfield or Cleveland, that we're going to come out victorious in this. But the 31-10 loss was the worst loss to the Cleveland Browns in, I believe, 25 years, Big Tiz. The 2 previous games, you only scored 1 TD in each game. And unless you're playing a Pop Warner team or a girls volleyball team, you're not going to come out victorious much on this. And that's just offensive. Now, the defensive side of the ball, 158 yards rushing to the Cleveland Browns and 4 pass plays of over 31 yards. I think that's most against any team this season. And that was, I would say, they had blown coverage and I don't know actually what you would call it, but that was on the defense. Now getting back on the offensive side of the ball during the Browns loss, the Steelers ranked next to last in red zone opportunities. Now, so far this year, the Steelers been in red zone 19 times,
right,
and only scored 7 touchdowns in that. That's not creating wins. Obviously, with a 3-3 record, but you you have to score when you get in the red zone, and I think the reason because they weren't scoring, Tiz, is because you have to be more. What's the word I'm looking for? You have to utilize your offense more. You have to be more. What's the word I'm looking for?
Well, efficient is one good word because the Steelers definitely need to be efficient on their execution and everything else, and the Steelers have been lacking that over weeks now. The inconsistencies and everything else that goes along with it. But like we said, with the defense allowing 158 yards rushing to these Cleveland young backs who really, when you see them play against other teams, they don't seem that impressive.
No,
but the Steelers right now, we're giving up chunks of yards to a lot of people. I believe everyone we played almost this year have basically been on the cusp of probably getting close to 100 or, been about there. And the Steelers have to find ways to get that, down. But the Steelers have came to a lot of attrition with the Steelers. The Steelers have to get it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting back on the offense, we talked about this a couple shows ago, and I think it was after the Ravens game where Ben took that really solid spear hit in the sternum. I think Ben is playing hurt because I can't remember the last time that I've seen a game where Ben has been so inconsistent with his throws. Usually he's right on the money. And you could thank God, you could thank whoever that you want to thank, that these receivers that we have, the core, with Antonio Brown, Marcus Wheaton, Martavius Bryant, we'll talk about him in the Texans game, but these sure-handed receivers that are making these miraculous catches that make Ben look good. He's been so inconsistent, even with the win against the Texans. The loss against Cleveland, you could always tell during a loss how bad your quarterback throws and where he's not throwing it. But when you get into a game where you're winning, and you could still see the inconsistencies, the overthrows, the bad throws. And we had a touchdown called back, which I do believe Antonio Brown was in, but we'll talk about that later versus the Texans. But for Ben to be this inconsistent, and I'm not talking about hurrying the throw and trying to eliminate a sack. I'm talking just bad downright out throws.
Yeah, and that's been a lot of it lately. I mean, the throws have either been over the receivers' heads or just plain downright bad throws, and it continues on with the inconsistency the Steelers been having over this period right now in this young 2014 season. And you go into like I said, the Steelers not producing points, and the Steelers, they cannot at all. If you want to beat the Steelers, one of the things you have to do is go into the hurry-up offense. The Steelers cannot stop the hurry-up offense, and the Steelers are known right now this year for giving up big plays.
That's right. Trying to keep it simple, the cover 2 and the cover 2 zone, that's really a way to beat the Steelers if you want to do that play action. You guys overcommitting to one side of the field, poor coverage or lack of coverage with the tight ends coming out or the running backs coming out of the backfield, you have nothing but open players.
Right.
And on top of that, when you have blown assignments, or if you have Troy Polamalu playing up at the line, and you guys and the cornerbacks and the safeties think that they're getting help, and you let the guys go past them, i.e. the tight end for the Cleveland Browns, wide open twice. When you have Brett Kiesel running 40 yards down the field to make it a tackle, you know something's blown. And I like this. Big Tiz, call me wrong. Steelers fans, you come. But what I saw in the Cleveland game was a lack of passion. I think it was more of like going through the motions. You know what I mean?
Right.
That, okay, we can overcome this. We're playing the Browns. That's the way I felt. Not saying that necessarily everybody else felt that way, but in my own opinion, my feelings, I think there was a lot of lack of passion.
Yeah, and that's the thing the Steelers need to get back to, that Steeler football, that Steeler mystique where the Steelers would feed off the energy. A lot of them, they used to feed off the energy of the defense, but you got to realize we're a team that's in, that's in attrition. We're trying to get rid of some older players, even though we do still have some, but we're trying to make that turnover. And when that happens, these younger players have to step up. But, it's the skill level that goes along with it, as anyone can tell you. I believe I even heard on TV some of the coaches saying that, these Steelers aren't like, well, some of the defensive Steelers aren't like the old ones, to where they'd overpower guys or they'd, make those big plays. These guys aren't there yet. And I believe in due time the Steelers have some good young players, a good core of young players where they can do things. But right now they're trying to get these guys up to speed on everything else. So it's been a hard, rough battle, but, they're battling through it. It looks like they're trying to battle through it.
That's right. And I attribute the loss to Cleveland, the 31-10 loss, they failed on all three aspects of the game. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is the offense, defense, and special teams. That you can't expect one aspect or one facet of the team to do a better job so that you don't have to do so. Example is the defense is relying on Ben to save them. Mm-hmm. And Ben is relying on the defense to save them. And special teams, they get caught in the mix. A botched field goal attempt. When you're in the red zone and you don't score 7, you have to score at least 3.
Right, I agree. I agree totally on what you're saying on that. And the Steelers, they're finding ways to keep themselves in scoring positions, and either that's by the penalties have dropped substantially, which is a good thing for the Steelers, but you still have to be able to convert those third downs, and the Steelers are right now, to me and any other Steeler fans, the Steelers to me are known for giving up 3 and outs, just like candy. 3 and out this play, 3 and out the next play, 3 and out. You can't keep sustaining drives. You can't keep sustaining a win in any game if you keep continually going 3 and out, especially when you're starting a game off and you're not scoring on your first possessions at all, or you're not even scoring at your first possessions of the second half. And this has been going on for a couple of years with the Steelers.
Right. This is one of those ruts that the Steelers offense has to get out of. And you could point fingers, you could blame whoever you want. But once you get in that rut, it's all about execution. I don't care who's calling the plays. A lot of people want to blame Tomlin. A lot of people want to blame Todd Haley. But they can only give the plays to the players. Now, if the players fail to execute, does it make the coaches look bad? Obviously, absolutely. But you really can't put all the weight and all the pressure on the coaches because they're not out there throwing the ball. They're not out there running the ball or catching it or stopping, the opponents. You're not playing defense. The coaches could say, here's what we got. Here's what we did in practice. Here's what we need to do during the game. And if they're not executing that, maybe if you want to look really deep into it, maybe the coaches, if you want to blame the coaches, maybe the coaches aren't giving the right plays for them to execute. Now, if you got the wrong plays out there and they're not executing, I could see where a 31-10 loss would come into play.
I can see that totally. Hey, guys, what we're going to do, we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to go over the game stats for the Steelers versus the Brown game. Next up on Steeler Nation Live.
Yeah. Shout out to Big Tiz, man. Big O. It's Steeler Nation, man. Yeah. Big Tiz. Big O. You know what it is, man. Steeler Nation, man. Big O. Yeah.
Uniform Express, located on 1408 Buffalo Road, Rochester, New York, for your police, fire, or EMS supplies. One of Rochester's top and finest suppliers of shirts, pants, shoes, boots, and accessories for your professional uniform needs. Uniform Express also does embroidery and screen print for team uniforms, jerseys, and corporations. Hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also go to their website at www.uniformexpress.com or call Brian at 585-529-4245. That's 585-529-4245. And let Brian know you heard his ad on our show, Steeler Nation Live.
Big up. Big up. Every night on Monday night, man.
Hey guys, welcome back. Big Tiz.
And I'm Big Host, Steeler Nation Live here in Rochester, New York.
Guys, we're going to go over the game stats for the Steelers versus the Browns. Granted, they might be dismal, but you know what? We're going to go over it, and we know a lot of you guys don't want to hear it, but you got to hear the numbers, and you got to appreciate certain things so you can figure out where you're going from one level or one game to the next game.
Sometimes the truth hurts, Big Tiz.
Exactly. So let's go. The Steelers in this game versus the Browns, the Steelers started off with the field goal, leading in this game actually 3-0.
That's a shocker right
Exactly.
there.
Then they went from that 3-0 score to the Browns scoring 21 unanswered points in the second quarter.
And then it continued on into the third quarter, and into the fourth quarter until the Pittsburgh Steelers, that what we call a garbage touchdown. But it's all for stats. It's great to score TDs. Lance Moore got that garbage TD, but when you look at his stats, it doesn't say garbage. It says TD. But it's always good to put points on the board for the bookies, the spread or whatnot. But if you look at the game stats, as far as when you go to first downs and yardage and penalties, turnovers, time possession, you would not think the score was 31-10. For example, Steelers 22 first downs to the Browns 19. Pretty close, folks. Total yards for the Steelers were 359 to 368 for the Browns. Penalties, 6 penalties for 42 yards, because we're getting there.
Right.
We're getting there. The mental discipline aspect of the game is finally starting to sink in. So we're averaging right now for the past couple games like 6 penalties a game, which really that cuts it in half, 50%. Turnovers, 1 each. And the time possession, Pittsburgh had the ball a little longer than Cleveland, 33 minutes and 5 seconds to their 26 to 55. So, and Roethlisberger really didn't have that bad of a day.
No, he didn't. Roethlisberger, he threw the ball actually pretty decent. 21 to 42, completing just about half of his passes for 228 yards, 1 touchdown. Hoyer on the other side for the Cleveland Browns, he was 8 of 17, 217 yards, 1 touchdown. But the Steelers, Ben tried to, pass the ball around to different backs, different receivers. So, Antonio Brown, his usual day at the office, 7 receptions, 118 yards. And Bell's definitely becoming a decent receiver for the Steelers. And
when you look at the stats for the Cleveland Browns, Big Tiz, when you look at the tight end, when the tight end has 3 catches for 102 yards and 1 touchdown, that we have problems with that.
Exactly. And that's where the time of possession comes in huge right there. As for the Steelers having the ball more, because the Steelers were trying to sustain drives in this game, and the Cleveland Browns, they were scoring, I believe the quarterback Hoyer only completed, like we said, 8 completions out of this whole game.
Right.
But they were for big chunks of yards.
You only threw the ball 17 times, and granted the Steelers were on the field, the offense was on the field more than the Browns, but when you're just shoveling sand, it doesn't matter. You could eat up the clock just as much on offense as you can when you're winning as if you're losing. And if the Browns, the defense, they let you do, run some plays, get on the field, eat some clock, that's fine. You're up 21 points, 3 touchdowns, 3 scores, 3 possessions.
Right.
You could eat up as much clock as you want. But the 4 plays for over 41 yards or 31 yards, what it was, that's the killer. You don't need much time to do that, and that's what did us in, Big Tiz. That's what did us in.
More or less, when you see it, like you said, you see a tight end with 3 grabs for 102 yards and a touchdown. That tells me that's bad linebacker play.
Oh, absolutely. And Roethlisberger was only sacked twice, threw 1 interception. You're going to have those days. You throw the ball 40 times, you're bound to get picked once. And on our side of the ball, we had 1 sack and 1 fumble recovery, no interceptions. And when you're not creating turnovers, you don't have those opportunities to score points, and the score showed it. And folks, after that game, we all know people are angry, people are upset, people want answers. And the first thing they do is they look to the coaches. And after this game, a lot of people were in the hot seat.
Exactly. I don't know if you guys noticed or heard a lot on the wire or on the NFL, whatever it is, different NFL outlets and things like that, where a lot of people were hammering and howling for either Tomlin's head, Haley's head, LeBeau's head, unbelievably. This guy is a guru on the defensive side of the ball.
He's been playing in the NFL for over 70 years.
Exactly. And that's why one of the things that we here at Still Nation Live, as you see on the screen, we put up the stats of all the different coaches that the Steelers have had over the years, which is not many compared to other clubs, and the last time the Steelers had an actual firing of a head coach was back when they had Bill Austin.
1968. And since 1968, it's been Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. Not a bad recipe for success. And if you look back, for all you stat people, if you look back at all the coaches that coached the Pittsburgh Steelers, pretty much every coach had a losing record. If you date it back to 1933, and I think the only coach between 1933 and 1968, where Billy Austin was a coach, we only had one coach who had a winning record. And I think that was like maybe 4 games at over 500. That was Buddy Parker from 1957 to 1964.
Wow.
When he actually had a winning record. But from 1933 up to Bill Austin, that was the only coach who had a winning record. And now we're talking about, obviously people are angry. Heads need to roll or whatever. And Chuck Noll, when he took over his team, 4 Super Bowls.
Right.
All right. After his tenure, his record was what? 193 and 148 and 1 tie. And then Bill Cowher, almost 149 and 90, 1 Super Bowl. And Mike Tomlin. What was his record? I can't think right now.
Mike Tomlin, I believe it was 71 and 41. But right now in Mike Tomlin's career, he and Bill Cowher have almost the exact same record, or if not, Tomlin's a couple games better than Tomlin was at this point in Tomlin's career compared to Bill Cowher's career. So what we're trying to get you guys to see in essence is the fact that, yeah, we understand the where everybody's they want things to be remedied up quick.
That's right. They want results.
Right. But if you look at the stats and the different things that we have here on the screen, you can see that Tomlin is a good coach, a good accredited coach. The fact is that right now, like we're trying to get you guys to see that this is a team that's really that's in turnover. We're trying to turn over to a younger team, a younger and faster team, which everybody always wanted was a younger and faster. Right.
A transition
team. And that's what's happening with the Steelers right now. So they're going through a lot. But if you look at things, Bill Cowher, he's been through some rough patches in his 15 years with the Steelers. I mean, we've been through 6 and 10 campaigns with Bill Cowher. We've been through some great years with Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher's also had a lot of good things in his cupboard when it came to taking over the Steelers back in 91, 92 when he took over the Steelers, is the fact that his cupboards weren't bare. And he admitted that. He knew that he had some guys on his team that can take him to a championship.
Right, but we never really had the firepower that we do now. When Bill Cowher took the team, we had guys like Bubby Brister, quarterback. We had Mark Malone, and then Neil O'Donnell, who just pretty much gave away the Super Bowl in '95. and then we have he just didn't have the firepower that Tomlin has right now.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, and I agree with that. Correct. I mean, we can debate it all day. It's the fact that, like I said, they're both quality coaches, but it's the fact that Tomlin right now, he just like what Carr went through, he's in a transition period.
Right.
He's in that period to where, yeah, you have a great leader, but the fact is, all the pieces around him aren't really there yet.
Right. Don't forget Tommy Maddox. When he went down, he was a savior for the Steelers at one point.
Yeah, from Cordell Stewart.
And then when he went down, and then Ben Roethlisberger got his shot, and that's the year we went 15-1, and that was some quarterback from Miami of Ohio. Who is this guy? First-round draft choice, and he showed what he can do, his potential.
Exactly.
But we understand. I'm a fan too, folks, and Big Tiz is a fan. We all want results now, but we have to be patient because everybody wanted a younger, faster defense. Now these younger, faster guys are just coming into the league. If you're healthy, unlike Jarvis Jones,
right?
Ryan Shazier, who are #1 draft picks, who are out, who are not helping this team because they're injured. But folks want results now.
Right, and a lot of things that have been holding the Steelers back for the last couple of years is huge injuries, especially on the defensive front. We've had Roethlisberger banged up for quite a few years, going into quite a few years now, where he's been. I think this year is really the first time where he's been seemed like healthy majority of the season.
Right, and not to mention the O-line, Marcus Gilbert. We'll talk about that injuries later in the show. Had a concussion, he's out.
Right.
Against the Texans. So other than that, the O-line has been pretty healthy.
Exactly.
So, I mean, we just got to be patient, folks, and you'll see. Just it can be done. You look at the Cleveland game, you look at the Texans game, you see a lot of disparities. between both games, and we're going to talk about that later in the show, why and how that it come, even the score was so close, the Steelers-Texans game, how did we become victorious?
Exactly. Well, you know what, guys? What we're going to also do now, we're going to jump to this, and we're going to talk about some keys to victory in that game versus the Texans. And we here at Steelers Nation Live, we thought a lot of the keys the Steelers had to do in that game to beat the Texans was the Steelers, they had to at least let the quarterback for the Texans be the one that had to try to win the game.
Absolutely.
So that meant that the defense had to basically really shut down the run and force Fitzpatrick to be the one to win the game.
That's right. And with Arian Foster, one of the greatest running backs in the NFL right now, not necessarily his prime, but he can be that O.J. Simpson. He can be that, that premier back, and he's on a great run. And for the Steelers to win this game, like you said, Big Tiz, let Fitzpatrick make the mistakes. Let him throw. And he's very, very famous for doing that. You put the pressure on Fitzpatrick, then he's going to lose the game. Back in Buffalo, right there. Perfect example for you. But the key to victory to beat these Texans on defense, contain Foster.
Right.
Make Fitzpatrick throw. Bump and run. The Johnson guys. DeAndre Hopkins, got to control him. Keep him down. They really don't have a tight end since Owen Daniels has left, and he's now Baltimore Ravens. So once you do that on the defensive side of the ball, you have a great opportunity to win this game. Now, offense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. To win this game, you have to contain J.J. Watt. Now, how do you contain J.J. Watt? You can't, and I'll tell you why. J.J. Watt plays his game. He could be lined up at left tackle, left end, over the center. He could be everywhere. You cannot. He's like a Troy Polamalu, but only twice as big, twice as fast, and twice as strong.
Right.
You have to contain him, which is pretty much almost impossible. You can't double team a guy where you don't know where he's going to be.
They move him all over the place.
Absolutely. When you line up to the line of scrimmage, you can have DeCastro and somebody else have an assignment to double team him, but if he's not over you, now what do you do?
Exactly.
And with Clowney being out of the game, so that
it doesn't give them their bookends that they need on each side of the ball, which makes them actually a real dangerous team. But the fact is that the Steelers will probably get them at the best time, especially with Clowney probably being a game-time decision in this game versus the Texans.
Right. And don't forget about Cushing's linebacker. This guy's like a Ryan Matthews. This guy is all over the place, just like J.J. Watt. He's not as tall, not as big, but he is strong and he is fast. So there's a lot of guys on the defense side of the ball that you have to contain if you want to have that offensive power. Now, the secondary with the Texans, very weak. Mm-hmm. I would like to say soft. That word soft has been used quite a bit. We'll get to that in a couple seconds. But if Ben has the opportunity, if you can slow down J.J. Watt, if you can slow down Cushing, if Clowney doesn't play, if you slow that down, give Ben a couple extra seconds to throw that ball, we're going to win this game.
Right. I agree.
And not to mention, a good rushing attack and to break up the passing attack, to give him something. And I know Dre Archer is going to be starting. Le'Veon Bell has become a prolific back with the receiving and running and catching out of the backfield. We have Martavius Bryant starting his first NFL game. Lance Moore, Marcus Whedon. We got a good chance to win this game, Big Tiz. Good chance to win this big. We can win this game. We have a great chance. Did I say that? And getting back to the previous game where the Texans had a great opportunity to move up in their division by beating the Colts.
Right.
They lost a heartbreaker because of fumble late in the game.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Texans. The Texans are a good squad. They play sound defense at times, but the fact is they will give up some big plays, and they find themselves, basically losing games in the last minutes where they could have come out on top. They easily could have won the Dallas Cowboy game as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And like I said, this is no slouch team. I can actually even see these guys possibly vying to try to still fight the Colts later in the year for the lead in this division.
Yeah, the loss to the Cowboys hurt. The loss to the Colts, if they would have won that, I do believe they would have been tied top of their division. But now, because of they lose to the Colts are 4-2, Texans are 3-3, and now they're going in Heinfield to play the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Exactly. Hey, guys, we're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back for the commercial break, we're going to fast forward and we're going to give you the game stats from the Steelers versus the Texas Titans. I almost said Tennessee.
Houston, Texas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Houston.
Long day here on Still Nation Live.
McGinney's Sports Pub, 2246 East River Road, Rochester, New York. Open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Sunday noon till midnight. McGinney's is a sports pub featuring fine lunch and dinner. Whether from the menu or the chef's daily specials, there's always something great to eat until 11 p.m. McGinney's also has a full line of your favorite beverages with daily drink specials sure to quench your thirst and not your wallet. With 2 floors of seating, 20 HD TVs, there's never a bad seat to watch your favorite game. Happy hours from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and home of the Chicken Wing Challenge every Thursday night. McGinney's also offers full catering as well, so come on down and check us out. We would sure love to meet you. So go online to www.mcguinness.com and check out their full menu.
Welcome back to Steeler Nation Live here in Rochester, New York. I'm Big O.
I'm Big Tiz.
And Big Tiz, we started to talk about the blowout in Cleveland, and after the game, people were talking about the coaches on the hot seat or whatnot, and there were a couple ex-Steelers that had some, I won't say negative things to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers, but you can't say that they're wrong. But Bill Cowher, we all know Bill Cowher said something, and Heinz Ward, we all love him.
Right.
We love him. And, there's constructive criticism can be used as a term, and you could also use something negative, like these guys don't know what the heck they're talking about. But I kind of view what they're saying is truth. Right. Sometimes we talked about this earlier, sometimes the truth hurts. And a statement, quoting Bill Cowher, okay? Bill Cowher said, "There are some things in life where it's a compliment to be called finesse, but on the football field, it's almost the equivalent to being called soft." And I do believe that he's right.
Yeah, right now, the way the Steelers are playing on defense, or sometimes if you watch the game, do you call it defense? I don't know, because it seems like there's a lot of guys running around, not knowing where they're supposed to be at, missing assignments, missing tackles. This is not the old Steelers that Bill Cowher remembered, or the way they were from back in the day when Chuck Noll was there. And, like we said earlier, a lot of it has to go with a team that's in transition, trying to find themselves at the moment. And that's what's going on with the Steelers. But I believe these guys are, trying to give fuel to the Steelers, not damage them, but just trying to let them know that, you guys got to stand up and make a statement for yourselves.
Right. We're not talking about, when we say misassignments, we're not talking about veterans, rookies. We're talking about veterans here. We're talking about Troy Polamalu. How many times in the Cleveland game did you see him out of position? I'm thinking the 4 plays that went over 30 yards when he's up on the line.
Right.
It happened. It's happening when you're trying to do too much and you're trying to make up for what you had and don't have now. You're tending to make mistakes. And that was a quote from Bill Cowher. And the other quote was from Heinz Ward, who was like, "I don't know who these guys are. Who are they?" Because when you look at the Steelers, you're always when you think Steelers, the first thing that comes to your mind, if you're a true Steeler fan, is the steel curtain. Steel curtain, tough defense. You're not thinking about Terry Bradshaw throwing them long touchdown passes or Ben Roethlisberger. You're thinking the first thing you think of is that tough Steeler defense.
Right.
Steel. The Steelers. You're not thinking primarily about the offense. You're thinking toughness. Okay? And when you're being referred to as being soft, that kind of hits. It's at home.
Right. And that's what I think a lot of these guys were trying to do. They're trying to pump these guys up to say, you know what, live up to the mystique of what this team has built over years. You come in here and you play the way you're playing, unacceptable. So they want these guys to step up and do the things they want to do. The Steelers can take it that way, or they can take it as a team that says, you know what, you guys are throwing jabs, so let's start feeling sorry for ourselves. No.
Right, no.
These guys say stand up, be a man, or be a football player and play.
Right. If you're going to wear the black and gold, black and yellow, you need to produce.
Exactly.
Whether you're a rookie or a veteran, you wear that uniform. You just like the Yankees. You wear that uniform, you wear it with pride. Why I say Yankees? It's because the history and nostalgia, right there.
Right.
I mean, you could say anything about Pittsburgh Steelers, Mean Joe Green. First thing that comes to my mind is that Coca-Cola commercial.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Not to mention the 4 Super Bowl rings and the first round draft choice that the Steelers had when Chuck Noll came and got Mean Joe Green. But you always think of Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the mystique of the Steelers is that defense. That we're the intimidators. We're not to be intimidated. But I know this is the 2000s. I know we think more of fast-paced, gunslinging, everything's offense, but there is defense out there.
Right. And you know what, guys? Being that it is the 2000s, Steelers, began this series with the Texans. I'm sorry, I keep thinking of Tennessee, but we got them coming up later this year anyway. But that series began in 2002, and the series tied at 2-2.
Until Monday night,
right?
And we'll talk about that in a minute. The Texans won the last meeting, and we all know about that heartbreaking Arian Foster run up the middle, untouched, 42 yards. Like, hello, like how could somebody when you're playing, I'll say tackle football, okay? When you're playing tackle football and you take the ball 4 or 5 yards deep in your backfield and you run up the middle, and you're untouched, 42 yards of touchdown, you deserve to lose. I'm sorry, folks.
And the Steelers lost it. I mean, it was a close game. It was a 17-10 game down there time, and we were playing in Houston in that game. Steelers lost it, and they, remained the rest of that season kind of licking their wounds from that game.
That's right. And the thing about that is you can't focus on the past, but you can build on it. And like you said, Big Tiz, 3 seconds ago, this is really not a big, in 2002, it's really not that big of a series. Different divisions, different conferences, But when you play anybody, you need to get that W, whether it's, especially if it's a conference game. But to play a game, you need to get that W.
Exactly.
You got to get it.
Well, in this game against the Texans, that's exactly what the Steelers did. They got that W. The Steelers won this game 23-30, but the game didn't start out that way. The game started out so dismal that I Big Tiz, contemplated turning my TV off.
Well, I was going to give at least halftime, because that's for Big O, that's nighty-night time, because we have to get up early for work in the morning. So that's about the time where you'd go to bed on any Monday night football game where you're losing interest. And by that, Big Tiz, it's like Groundhog Day.
Exactly.
Same thing over and over again. Either we win the toss or we lose the toss. We always get the ball first. Typical 3 and out. But that didn't happen in this game against the Texans. We kind of drove down the field and moved the ball a little bit, which was fine. But then we got into what's it called defensive mode, where the Texans had the ball. And if you can't stop the Texans on an opening drive, when the opposing offense has 100% on third down conversions, you're really not going to win that much. You're not going to win those ball games.
Exactly.
You have to find a way to stop the team on third downs. And Pittsburgh had a hard time doing that in the first quarter. And it's like apropos. This is how the season's been so far this year. They get the ball first. The Steelers get the ball first. Unable to capitalize. I cannot remember. I'm looking at my papers. I can't find a stat. The last time the Steelers had the ball. I'm going to look at this next show, folks. I'm going to find the last time the Steelers had a ball on their opening drive and actually scored a touchdown. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's been some years, to be honest. And the Steelers have given up, in this game, against the Texans. right off the bat, the Texans went down on their first initial drive and got a touchdown. These are the things that the Steelers have to do to be in game, to start games off, to make an initial statement. In this game, the Steelers, we had 18 first downs in this game compared to 20 for the Texans. Now, the Texans came into this game ready to play. I mean, they were amped up.
I mean, not necessarily the same situation as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Jacksonville Jaguars were, in a situation where nothing to lose, all to gain. They had a lot to win. They had a lot to gain by not just beating the Pittsburgh Steelers at home, but to help improve in their division. That race for number 1 against the Colts. And this was pretty much a must-win for the Texans.
Exactly. Well, the Steelers in this game, total yardage for the Steelers was 252 yards compared to 261 for the Texans. And the rushing yards for the Steelers was 76 compared to 132 yards for the Texans. A lot of the yards for the the Texans were from the first half of Foster. Foster went on a tear on the Steelers. I believe he almost had 100 yards before half.
I remember I got your text message. She's got 75 yards already. Half's not over yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, this could be a long night, Tiz.
But if you look at some of the other stats, the Steelers they did good again with their penalty yardage. It was 6 for 38, which is not bad compared to what we used to have in the 100 yards, at least of offense. Penalty yards.
Right.
4 penalties for the Texans for 12 yards. Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. And the thing about the defensive penalties, I think the referees are going at Cortez Allen because of his history, not being able to, to cover certain receivers, and he had his hands full. I think he did a relatively good job. However, a couple penalties. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. It's so easy to be Monday morning quarterback or Tuesday morning quarterback, but when you get out there, when you're getting the money that you're getting paid, you need to produce, and he's borderline right there, Cortez Allen. But
yeah, he definitely is. He's going to be a marked man. It seems like a lot of the season because a lot of teams know he's having problems and he's out there. So why not go at him? He's a known fouler, I should say.
Right. And I thought that Andre Johnson was going to have a night with him, but it happened to be DeAndre Hopkins had a huge night against Cortez Allen. And before we jump the gun here, we need to talk about that second quarter. What happened? And because I'm going to not throw you under the bus, but I'm going to hit you with a question right now. Mm-hmm. All right, and I want you to be totally honest with me. I want you to be totally honest with the fans out Steeler Nation Live. Did the Steelers win this game, or did the Texans lose it? I want you to be honest.
I think the Steelers won the game. The only reason I said they won the game because just like in any other game, if this happened with the Steelers on that side of the ball, giving up these turnovers and things like that, we say the Steelers lost the game. But then again, the only way for them to lose the game is for the other team to put up points. So the Steelers put up points when they had to. Now, granted, was it a struggle again, almost similar to the Cleveland game, to where we didn't score another point until maybe late in the game?
Late.
I don't know what it is. Well, the Steelers almost got a touchdown late in the game to Antonio Brown, so I will say that.
I'm telling you, that was a touchdown.
I do believe that was a toe tap touchdown in the back of the end zone, but you got to survive and get through that. So they got the field goal. Some points are better than no points.
Right, but in my heart, I would like to believe the Steelers won this game, but I'm thinking, and I'll tell you why. I have reasons. Mm-hmm. I think the Texans lost this game. Many reasons. And getting back to the second quarter where we scored 24 points in less than 3 minutes. And the last team to do that, Tiz, and you probably know as well as I, but I'm going to say it because I want to look smarter than you. But the last time a team in the NFL to do this was 2002, and that was the Seattle Seahawks, to score 24 points in less than 3 minutes. Now, is this the reason why I say the Texans lost this? Because the Steelers up to this point were not that prolific on offense or creating turnovers.
Right.
Now, when you get Arian Foster fumbles the ball to 3, we capitalize that and we score a touchdown. Okay. We kick the ball back off to them. The kick returner fumbles the ball, but they recover. deep in your own territory, less than around a minute left to go in the half. You want to sit on the ball. I mean, you got the lead, you want to sit on the ball, but no, what do? They decide they want to throw the ball. They want to score. You're up. You're up on us. Okay? What happens? Brett Kiesel gets a hand on it, gets a shoulder on it, hits Timmons in the face. He turns around, catches it, runs back, interception. Steelers score again. All right. Now we have issues. Okay? Now, all right, we're getting the ball back. Now we have less than a minute left to go in the game. We're getting the ball back. Let's go into halftime with the lead. Okay, we're going to halftime with the lead. We're getting the ball back. On the ensuing kickoff, we come back from half. Let's take a knee. Let's go into the locker room with the lead. No, they don't do that. Once again, turnover. Pittsburgh gets the ball, scores again, and then again, and then now you're up 24 to 13 at halftime. Then you're getting the ball back, and then let's fast forward to near the end of the game. Okay, Steelers are up by a touchdown, I believe it was, whatever.
Right.
Final drive. Pittsburgh's not moving the ball. Okay? Third and 4, whatever, we're not moving the ball. Too many men on the ice. Okay? Penalty. First down. And then there was another play that kept us moving. The momentum was going. Then the touchdown that wasn't to Brown in the end zone. We ended up kicking a field goal. So now we're up by 2 touchdowns. Okay? Now let's keep on fast forwarding it. They get the ball again, march down the field right away under 2 minutes, score a touchdown. All right, now we got a minute and a half left to go in the game.
Yeah.
Onside kick. We all saw, if you stayed up for that, onside kick if you're at the game. All right? Tomlin timeout. Shouldn't have done that. They screwed up the first kick. Second kick, I mean, it hit everybody on special teams on both sides. We end up getting the ball. Where the ball was laying on the ground, and all a Texan had to do was fall on it, and right away you're at the 30-something yard line. They didn't come up with the ball. And that's why I'm saying that we didn't actually win this game. They lost because the last drive with all the penalties, not recovering, that the onside kick, which was a very good one.
Right.
And everything that led up to that pretty much we were giving the game to the Texans, but they didn't want it. They gave it back to us. So nothing negative, disparaging against the Steelers. A win is a win. You look at that win column. It's not like, it doesn't have how we got there. You got the wins, you got the loss. But I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you because I think the Texans lost that. I don't think we won it.
Hey, I mean that was very good, and that's exactly what happened in the game. But like I said, my thoughts are the Steelers. You know, they were a team that got those opportunities and they took advantage of those opportunities. But the fact is that their defense finally made some stands in a game that we needed, and we needed huge. Right now with the loss for the Texans, that drops the Texans down to 3-4, and the Steelers, where they both had identical records, up to 4-3. You know, with still a chance for the Steelers to fight for the number 1 position in their division, you know, more or less right now, which is being led by the Baltimore Ravens. So it's going to be a dogfight for the rest of the season, you know, and the Steelers actually have I believe they have a 2 or 3 game stand at home coming up.
They do. They have the Colts next week. It's a 4:25 game, and then they have the Ravens coming to town, where that's going to be a special game, not because we play the Ravens and it's payback time. I do believe it's Mean Joe Green. We're going to retire his number at that game.
That's going to be huge, Steelers fans. You know what, guys? We're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to pregame the Steelers versus the Colts, in Pittsburgh. Next up on Steeler Nation Live.
Heckle & Jekyll Sports Cards, Collectibles, and Video Games. Open 7 days a week here in Rochester, New York. Mike has all kinds of individual cards and packs. Baseball, football, basketball, hockey, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, just to name a few. Mike also has the widest variety of video games too, from Sega Genesis to Wii to PlayStation to Nintendo, Game Boy Color Advance, and so on. Mike has all the old school games you can't rent or buy anymore. Mike also has a great selection of autographed memorabilia, sports jerseys, hats, 8x10s signed by your professional athletes for you to buy. He also has video game, Yu-Gi-Oh! And poker tournaments, Beanie Babies, Bratz dolls, sports figures, and more. Mike runs the show 7 days a week. Call Mike, 585-889-9130. That's 585-889-9130. Folks, if you're not in Rochester and you're looking for that hard-to-buy memorabilia, call Mike or look him up on the web at heckjack@rochester.rr.com. Once again, folks, that's heckjack@rochester.rr.com. But if you are in Rochester, you can go down to Chile Avenue, that's 3240 in the Chile Paul Village. So come down, tell Mike you saw us on the show, and he'll cut you a discount. Just kidding, Mike. Mike has all the discounts anyways. So remember, Heckle & Jekyll Sports Cards, Collectibles, and Video Games open 7 days a week.
Every night on Monday night, man. 7 to 8 on Monday night.
Welcome back, fans. Big Tiz,
Big O.
guys. We're gonna pregame the Steelers versus the Colts on Sunday at 4:25. It's gonna be a huge game. Since every game for the Steelers is a must, and that means the Steelers have to focus on every game and don't take any game for granted.
Oh, absolutely. And there's really not that big of a, just like the Texans, we're playing the Colts, there's not really that big of a history, except for the playoffs back in, the last time the Steelers went to the Super Bowl, I think it was 2007, against the Colts. We all remember that game, the infamous Jerome Bettis fumble at the goal line where we had this game out of reach, and Roethlisberger with a shoestring tackle to save the Steelers' Super Bowl chances. And it did help that Vanderjagt missed a field goal.
Right.
Indoor cat at home, he missed it. Don't understand that, but it was meant to be for Steelers that year.
Yeah, the Steelers, like I said, that was a different team from this team now. That team was one of those teams that was really defensive driven and focused. And like I said, these guys right now, they're a younger squad trying to find themselves. And then they find themselves again playing these Colts. And the thing about it is that the Steelers have to find ways to control the Colts quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Now, we talked about this before the show, Big Tiz, and a lot of analysts have described Andrew Luck as being a heavy ball thrower, and I don't understand it at all. Something that has to do with he throws the ball so fast that the defense can't catch it or whatever for interception. I don't understand that. You know, that's all hogwash, whatever you want to call it. But he is a huge quarterback like Roethlisberger. He's very strong. He's got a good arm, precise arm. And to stop him, you usually have to get him out of the pocket.
Right.
You have to push him out of the pocket, flush him out.
Well, that's what I said. That Steelers have to be defensive minded. Like against this game against Fitzpatrick, the Steelers have to control this guy, and they have to do it with heavy blitzing. You got to make this guy move his feet.
A lot of pressure.
Right.
A lot of pressure.
And the Steelers really, really haven't been doing that to a lot of quarterbacks. Even in the previous game versus the Texans, the Steelers sacked them one time.
Right. Now, you can't really compare the Texans with the Colts, even though the records are almost similar. And this is a huge game for the Colts because if they lose and the Texans win next week, that's even closer because they're fighting for the top spot in their division. But there's a lot of things that the Steelers have to do to beat these Colts. Even though we're at home, you have to that Fleener, was it Corey Fleener, the tight end? Huge. He had 4 catches for 64 yards last week against the Bengals.
Right.
Where they shut the Bengals out in Cincy.
Yeah,
so
27-0.
So for them to go in Cincy, now they have to go in Pittsburgh. We're talking. They're riding high right now because to beat the Bengals with the record that they had, and now they're going into Heinz Field with the Steelers somewhat still trying to find themselves. With the offense, they have T.Y. Hilton, they have Ahmad Bradshaw running the ball, and they got Fleener tight end. All these, it's a great recipe for disaster for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, well, the thing with the Steelers, one of the things everybody knows is that, and I'm pretty sure they'll go to it on the Steelers, is the fact that they'll go to the hurry-up offense, which a lot of people say, even they were saying it last night in the game, the Steelers can't control the hurry-up offense, and their defense has problems against the run. So now here you come with another team that's very good at running the hurry-up offense, and these guys have Fleener as a tight end, and they actually have Ahmad Bradshaw, who was actually seeing a resurgence of his career.
Right, and let's not skip past or leave out the Colts defense. Now, they sacked Andy Dalton 4 times. Now, that's almost unheard of. I mean, I can't remember the last time the Steelers even had a sack on Andy Dalton. And for him to have such a bad day, I don't think I have the stats for the Bengals, but they were horrible. I can't. I think the Bengals only had 8 first downs that game, and it was more of a Colts show. And let's not forget, folks, this was in Cincinnati. It was not in Lucas Oil Field, AT&T Dome, or whatever you want to call it, where the Colts play. We don't know this, but for the Colts to come in there, now the Bengals were top. They were 4-2 in the division, hot. Right, even without their top receiver, or AC Green with the toe. Okay, I mean, it's just you go into Cincinnati, you think Cincinnati's going to do something,
right?
But they just totally took control of the Bengals, and I don't see them having any problem with coming in Heinz Field and having that same attitude.
To be honest, I mean, that's coming from me as well. But the fact is the Steelers have to find ways to put pressure on Luck. And when we say put pressure on Luck, you have to force Luck into bad throws and making mistakes. And the Steelers defense has to stand up and do that. Does that mean that you're going to have defensive backs on the island by themselves a lot? Yeah, it does mean that. But the fact that these guys, just like Hines Ward says, Bill Cowher says, you can't be soft. If you're here to play and you're here for the black and gold, and the mistake these guys have carried for years, this team is more or less dominated and predicated on blitzing.
Right. And getting back to the Texans game on Monday night, one of the top rushers on defense for the Steelers was Kiesel. And even Harrison had
these older guys
had a bunch of hurries, had a bunch of tackles, and in fact he had a personal foul roughing the quarterback, Fitzpatrick. You get to a point where you're almost there, and then when you finally get there, whatever.
Exactly. And like I said, the Steelers defense has to put pressure on Luck, because Luck is a totally different quarterback compared to Fitzpatrick.
So we're basically talking about the keys of victory against the Colts. Big Tiz, you talked about what the Steelers need to do on defense. What do the Steelers need to do on offense to beat these Colts?
Well, the Steelers on offense, they have to do some of the things that they did in this game against the Texans, and a lot of that is make sure you get Le'Veon the ball. This guy and this young kid, he can do many things with the ball, running the ball, and this guy is getting to be a phenomenal receiver out of the backfield.
Over 80 yards after the catch.
Exactly. This is the type of guy the Steelers have been longing for a long time, and he's here. Now, I believe the Steelers have to make more usage of Blunt. Blunt's a big bruising back, so they have to find more ways to get him that ball, especially down near the goal line or even short yardage. The Steelers have to find ways to get him the ball. Even that Blunt himself has proven himself to be a good receiver out of the backfield as well. The Steelers have to make sure that they get more of their other receivers involved into the game. I don't care if it's short yardage passes, but you have to do things to make those defensive backs come and start biting on those first moves.
Right. I agree with you 100%, Big Tiz. Also, Ben has got to be Ben. Okay, Ben, he might take a couple sacks, but he has to be on his game. We cannot have any missed opportunities, especially in the red zone. However, we do have to control the ball, and 3 and outs aren't going to win the game. So Ben's got his receivers, whatever it is he's doing wrong, he's got to correct it. He's got to stop expecting his receivers to make these circus catches.
Right.
And that's what's making makes him look so good. Martavius Bryant, his first NFL touchdown, That was a toe tapper in the end zone. That could have went both ways.
Exactly.
Brown's touchdown that was called back. It was a touchdown, but it was, you see what I'm saying here?
Exactly.
He's got to hit these receivers when he should be hitting them. And I don't think that we should be using Le'Veon Bell as an outlet, even though he's becoming prolific back by catching the ball and running with it as opposed to just handing it off to him. But that's what we got Dree Archer for. Now with Dree Archer against the Texans, when he was lined up, he was pretty much hiding behind Ben and the defense couldn't find him. Just got to give him the ball. Let him do his thing. But like you said about LeGarrette Blount, power back. Let's get him involved in small football. Let's tire out the defenses by smashing up the middle and then doing those plays to an outlet, a bubble screen to Le'Veon. But what I did like was a flea flicker. It didn't work. We talked about that. We talked about it on the phone, but I just want to see a flea flicker, this end around crap that everybody's trying to get, is finally wise to with the Steelers. Do like Terry Bradshaw to Lynn Swann or to John Stallworth, the flea flicker, the old flea flicker. What are your predictions of the score, Big Tiz?
I'm thinking in this one, to be honest, and I hate to throw that out there, but I can see the Colts probably pulling this game out. I'm saying maybe a 28-17 type score. And that's if the Steelers remain in that type of offense to where Antonio Brown numbers need to come down a little, his receiving numbers. And don't get me wrong, I love this guy. He's a phenomenal receiver. But if his numbers comes down, that means we can get the other receivers involved into the offense. So if his numbers come down, I can see the Steelers possibly have a good chance of winning this game. But right now, I see it as a 28-17 game with the Colts being on top.
I want to disagree with you, Big Tiz, but unfortunately, the way the Steelers are, and we don't want to get caught up in the Steelers' victory over the Texans. We want to get caught up in it high and have all these expectations what the Steelers are going to do next game. Oh, they created turnovers like the old Steelers of the days of old, where you created these turnovers, you made them, and you scored touchdowns. You won the game. Steelers did that, but still. The Steelers are nowhere near where they should be right now. And I agree with you. I don't think the Steelers are going to win this game. I think the Colts are going to come out, and I do believe it's going to be a 28-17 game. I agree with you, unless the Steelers control the clock, control the ball, Ben hits his targets when he should, and the defense comes up huge. I don't expect it to see it back-to-back games as much as I want to say it. But unfortunately, folks, I think the Steelers lose this game.
Yeah, and that's sad, to say that and to really feel it being a fan as well.
Oh, yeah.
But the Steelers need a lot of things to come together for them. Actually, the weather in Pittsburgh is, I'm going to let Big O talk to base about a little bit how the weather's going to be this Sunday versus the Colts in Pittsburgh.
That's right, Big Tiz. I'm glad you brought that up. Big O with your Steeler future weather forecast for next week's game at home in Highfield against the Indianapolis Colts. Big Tiz, it's going to be 64 degrees. It's going to be partly cloudy, maybe mainly cloudy. Who knows what the weather is? It changes all the time. It's going to be 64. The low is going to be 39, but that's later on in the evening. But you're going to be so pumped up for the Steelers' victory, you're not even going to feel it. The alcohol will be flowing. So I know you're not going to feel that. But there is a 20% chance of rain, Big Tiz, which absolutely means nothing. So enjoy the game in Pittsburgh. You know what, folks? Even though me and Big Tiz, we're doubtful, and we may seem, like
there'd be downers, maybe.
Yeah, we don't want to be that, but we want to be realistic, and we don't want to, we just want to tell like it is. And do we hope the Steelers win? Absolutely.
Of course.
Do we want the Steelers to win? Yes. But you just can't ride this so-called victory, where the Texans had every opportunity to win this game but didn't, and then go and play a team like the Colts. Even though it's home away, it doesn't matter. The caliber team that these guys bring to the table, you can't expect unless the Steelers bring their Super A game.
Right.
Let's be honest, folks.
Well, also in that game, actually, coming into this game, the Steelers on the injury front didn't look too bad. I mean, we did have Marcus Gilbert, who went out with a concussion. We'll find out later this week to see, hopefully, if he's going to be able to, play or suit up for the game versus the Colts. And Beacham did go out for a small stretch in the game versus the Texans, but he did. I think he did eventually come back in the game, so I believe he should be fine for the next game coming up. And we still have the usuals that are still out for the Steelers.
Right. Jarvis Jones, he'll be back maybe 2020, who knows, with that wrist injury. We expect him to be here before the season's out. Ryan Shazier, he did practice this week. Shamarko Thomas did practice this week. And it's day-to-day, game-to-game, but we really don't want to put the guys into that position. The Steelers don't want to put them in that position to get re-injured. So we're taking this cautiously, and I appreciate that. And that's pretty much it.
Hey, guys.
On the injury front.
Sorry about it, but we're going to go to our final commercial break of the night. When we come back, we're going to give you our final thoughts from Big Tiz and Big O. Next up on Still a Nation Live.
Ohio. Everyone knows everybody. Everyone calls you friend. You don't need an invitation. Just kick off your shoes and come on in. At 4 of a Kind Consignment and Resale, they have antiques, vintage items, electric items, clothing, and housewares. 4 of a Kind Consignment and Resale is a 4-generation family-owned establishment that also has Muffler & More, Spade Web Design and Publishing, and Spade Enterprises, a business that loves and cares about the community. Even though they are in Ohio, 4 of a Kind Consignment and Resale has a ton of Steeler items for sale now and even more during the season. They're closed on Mondays, but they're open Tuesday through Sundays. Call Heidi. Her phone number is 567-203-7858. That's Heidi at 567-203-7858. Or look for her on the web at spadeinc.com/4oak.html. They ship everywhere.
Welcome back, fans. Big Tiz.
I'm Big O.
Guys, we're going to do our final thoughts of the night. I'm Big Tiz, so I'm going to start off first. And one of the things I want to start off by saying is the Steelers, the main word you have to look at is consistency. The Steelers, a lot of the games that you've lost have been because of inconsistent play. If you remain consistent in some of the things you've done to win the games you've won, I can see you guys finishing out the rest of the season being undefeated. But the thing about it is, it has to be consistent. And does that equate to, from all the way from the coaching staff down to the players? Of course it does. But it has to be consistent. And if you remain consistent, I can see the Steelers finishing out the season strong. But right now, it starts with each game, and it has to start right now here on Still a Nation Live.
Big Tiz, hard to follow Big Tiz when everything he says is absolutely correct. But I'm going to chime in a little bit here. What the Steelers need to do is, we saw it. It can happen. Creating turnovers, and not only creating turnovers, Big Tiz, and folks at home, but capitalizing. 24 points in less than 3 minutes, unheard of since 2002 Seattle Seahawks. It can be done. But should we have to rely on this kind of technique to win ball games? No. Control the clock. No 3 and outs. On defense, stop them on 3rd down. Don't let them stay in the game. Ben, start throwing the ball like you used to throw the ball to your receivers. Not necessarily defense, because no interceptions the past couple of games, which is great. But you can't expect your receivers to make acrobatic catches every time. Establish that running game. Stop blaming the coaches. Let the players get out there and try and contribute to and do what they're supposed to do on the field. Stop blaming the coaches. If the guys can't do their job, it's not the coach's fault. Maybe we need new guys. I don't know. But it can be done. We proved it can be done. We did it. 60 minutes of football, folks. We almost lost it against the Texans because we played 50. And every minute counts, and every play counts. So the Steelers come out on defense, create turnovers, scoring in the red zone, being more creative. Love that. Love that Antonio Brown touchdown. 1-for-1 with a TD to Lance Moore. Gotta love it. Folks, it can be done, but they have to do it. I'm Big O.
And I'm Big Tiz, and we want to thank you guys again for checking us out here on Steeler Nation Live. Go to the website, check us out at www.steelernationlive.net. Put up your picks. There's a lot of things you can do on the site. You can even chat during the game. But we want you guys to always check us out here because we're going to support you because you are the fans, and we are the fans as well. But like I said, we're all one Steeler Nation here on Steeler Nation Live.
Right. And we got gift cards to give out to Otto Tomatoes, great Italian restaurant here in Rochester, New York. If you send your pics, your selfies, whatever, Steeler gear, whatever, and we choose you, you win a gift card to Otto Tomatoes to enjoy some Italian cuisine. But don't forget, McGinney's. For any kind of cuisine, bar food, good Italian food, whatever you want, go see Big Sal at McGinney's. Eastwood Road, Henrietta, Rochester, New York. Thanks, folks. I'm Big O.
And I'm Big Tiz. We'll see you next week after a big Pittsburgh Steelers win in Pittsburgh against the Colts.
Hopefully.
Big O.